This is Toon Talk Weekly, episode 237. This week, Brad and I get dangerous, but we try to stay as safe as possible when we watch an episode of the Amazon Prime series, Danger in Eggs.
Aw, there's never flaming stuff. I'll say it again, this park just isn't dangerous enough. Whoa!
Dee Dee, are you okay? Do you remember the 4th grade?
Yeah. Why all the construction machines? Gas! Are they helping us build our obstacle run?
Nope. They're going to tear down that monstrosity tomorrow.
The Tube of Pain! What? They can't demolish that! Aw, I promised my father that one day I'd stunt ride it. I should ask him. Fire on!
The day just keeps getting better.
Boy. Where is that kid?
Hey everybody, it's Tuesday once again. That means it's time for another episode of the weekly cartoon podcast, Toon Talk Weekly. That's, of course, this show. So, of course, thank you for joining us once again to chat about some cartoons this week. My name's Jake Williams, but I brought along my good friend Brad Chmielewski to talk cartoons this week. Brad, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. 2 weeks in a row, dude. You didn't say goodbye at the start of the episode.
Yeah. Well, you said goodnight this morning on our call, so
Yeah.
see, it happens.
It's been one of those backwards days for me, so it's just sometimes you just get confused. You don't know what time of day it is. Maybe you stayed up way too long. I don't know. Who knows? So,
Okay.
of course, welcome everybody in. If you're listening to the show for the first time, Brad and I have been doing this for a few years now, and we like to just kind of pick brand new cartoons to watch, stuff we haven't seen, stuff we haven't seen in a long time. This week is some of our favorite stuff is watching the new stuff that people are actually creating because sometimes I think in the case of today's show, which Danger in Eggs is the name of the show, it's an Amazon, I guess I always just call it Amazon Instant Video. I don't know what they call their service anymore. It's
Amazon Prime Video, right?
Yeah, right. Like it's if you have Prime, you can watch more of the video stuff. This is a show that I had never heard of. How about you, Brad?
No, I didn't know it existed.
So it's one of those things where like the podcast in a weird way, guys, it lets us find stuff because we have to do the digging to figure out what we're going to talk about the next week that otherwise I don't think I would have ever heard of. And I honestly think this might be one of our first Amazon original cartoons we've done that's not like the Nickelodeon license and then we watch some stuff on Amazon or something like.
Okay. Amazon should probably be sponsoring this show, Hook us up.
Yeah, I don't know what you can hook us up with, but just do it. We'll take anything.
That Prime membership went up,
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because for the longest time, I've always felt that Prime Video is like a service that I don't use a ton of. We talk a lot on here about Netflix, Hulu. Those are pretty easy to access, pretty easy to find stuff. Obviously,
we use it a lot at home for movies because there are no movies on Netflix because it's just it's basically a TV channel, and
right.
The movies that other movies are on like HBO or Stars you can find, but there's a lot more movies you can find on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So we use it a lot for movies.
Do you feel like you have to pay more often, or they just seem like newer movies are just there as part of the service?
Newer movies are there because they're not on Netflix.
Yeah. No, yeah. I remember, this has been a couple of years now. Netflix was all about, when it started, it had all kinds of stuff. And then once there were other players and suddenly other companies also, they wanted to keep making money on their movies. Movies don't show up until like a month after they're actually out on DVD or something.
Right.
Which, aside from Shirt Tales, I haven't seen a DVD in years. Like, I don't know. So I don't know how all that works. But I was happy and pleased this week to find this show, Danger in Eggs. Wanted to do something a little bit newer. I think we've done an older show the last few weeks. And Danger and Eggs was, man, it kind of did it for me. It was kind of awesome. So let's just jump into the background of this show a little bit.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot that I actually found, which is kind of interesting, about where the show came to be. Although parts of it now I'm not surprised now that we've actually seen an episode. But the show was, it's an American animated series, premiered on Amazon Video. It was actually June 30th of last year, so 2017. So the show's only 6 months old at this point. Is actually so a couple of quick fun notes are that it's the first children's cartoon to be co-created by an openly transgender person. So, like, awesome. Like, we need more equality in those roles, and I love that. Okay. And it was created by Mike Owens and Shady Petoskey. 13 episodes, 1 total season at this point. Features guest voices of celebrities you might have heard of. Felicia Day, Chris Hardwick, Jonah Ray, Weird Al Yankovic, and a ton more. And I'm pretty sure at the end of the episodes, it does say that the executive producers are the creators, Mike Owens and Shady Petoskey. But Chris Hardwick is also an EP. And in one of the episodes I watched, he was most definitely the voice of a character.
Okay, sure.
So,
like your money, you might as well be in the show too, right?
Yeah, and I mean, look, Chris Hardwick's like got the Nerdist Network and stuff, so he's into these sort of nerdy things like cartoons. I could see him and a lot of the people who are involved in this, all people who have been on Nerdist Network shows before. I could totally see them wanting to be part of something like this.
Sure. Okay.
So what can you expect from an episode of Danger and Eggs? Like it's such a cool name. Like I don't know what else to say about it. That I don't know what the show would even be about. And even the theme song to the show can't even really describe it. So generally speaking, we follow the two main characters who are Dee Dee Danger, who comes from what I learned in one of my episodes. She comes from a long line of Dangers. And the Dangers are a family of daredevils and stuntmen, basically. Okay. I'm sure you saw, I think in one of your episodes, Brad, that her father is in tons of casts and like a wheelchair. And
yeah, her father's basically like he can't talk or do anything. She just carts him around.
Yep. So that's kind of part of her story building is that her family is all like daredevils, and they do like cool jumps and want to do that kind of stuff. So she's always doing these kind of dangerous, very adventurous things. She's a thrill seeker, right? She wants to be able to actually do these things. She's also like a very good person though. Like I don't think there's any bad bone in her body really that wants to like, she's not out to hurt anybody or harm anyone with her stunts. And her best friend is Phillip. Phillip is an egg. He's like an anthropomorphic egg. He's got these great, long, tiny limbs.
Yeah.
And I can't tell, dude, on his arms, are they supposed to be protective like pads, or are those his sleeves that are halfway down his arms?
I thought they're like elbow pads.
Yeah, I guess it would make sense because Philip's character is all about safety, being that he's an egg. He's obviously worried about cracking and breaking. It's very fragile. Like he sees life as fragile. So a lot of the adventures he follows around Dee Dee with some sort of rule book or like the safety guidelines, basically making sure to protect her. Because he's all about safety. So you have these like two clashing sort of ideas of how they want to live their lives, but they're best friends. So they go on adventures together. And then in the end of the theme song, which I couldn't really make out what they were saying and everything, but I wrote down at the end of the theme song before the title card says, it's kind of hard to explain.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's what you can expect. You can expect thrill-seeking Dee Dee Danger going on adventures with her best friend Phillip, who's an egg, who lives inside of his mom, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he basically gets pooped out every time we see like, oh, I'm coming.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like mama hens or whatever, like she's a giant chicken or a giant hen, and they basically incubate their eggs or whatever. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. And it's also like in the middle of this park. I actually noticed that a lot of episodes take place, they start in this park in whatever city they're in.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of interesting. So, right off the bat, man, let's talk about a few episodes that we watched. I think we each watched the intro episode, which they do the two-parters, right? 2 11-minute chunks. And then I caught another one after I wanted to talk about. But generally, what were the storylines? Like, what were the things that you picked out as like fun things from that first episode?
So the first episode, which you can also, or the first 2 episodes, you can watch for free. You don't need the Amazon Prime. That's like the preview for it. So you can watch that without it. So anyone who's thinking or doesn't have Prime at this point, you can check it out. But these two stories, the first one involved Dee Dee basically going down a water slide that's going to get demolished that day. And it's probably the most dangerous, treacherous water slide there is. That previous kid, Duncan, was lost in there for 23 years. You know, they end up finding him at some point. It just involves, like, that whole episode is about, like, friendship and taking risks together and, you know, enjoying the moment, I guess, is what you get out of that episode. That episode was super fun. I felt like I got a lot of personality of both the characters in it.
Any escape hatches or clearly marked emergency exits?
Like that? Sure, but it says employees only, and I don't work here. I'm a kid.
You make an excellent point, Duncan, but being inside a demolition zone isn't safe either. So an exception?
No, we do not work here.
I do respect your adherence to the rules. So, as acting park safety expert, I hereby deputize you as summer safety helper of this water slide. You start now.
My first job. Come in, boss.
Then the second part episode was about, like, eating broccoli and only adults eat broccoli. And then, like, the egg, he likes broccoli now, so he must be adult, so he has to go through adult stuff. But that episode, like, really got lost on me where I didn't find it as interesting as the water slide one. I was like, I was over it. Maybe it's because I'm a adult who is fine eating broccoli, but I was like, this is not an interesting storyline. That's the reason why you're adult. I felt like it also sells mixed messages to kids, like, oh yeah, we don't like broccoli. I don't know. I didn't like this episode, but
Yeah.
I liked the first one a lot.
All right, well, let's talk about a little bit about that first episode. I just looked over. It's called Tube of Pain.
Yeah, okay.
First off, dude, the reveal of the slide was great because they're in this park. They're just having a regular day. Dee Dee wants to go on this adventure. The camera snaps over, and then, like, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, this, like, tiny little park, city park, has this massive structure.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe that. I was like, what? That's ridiculous. And it actually reminded me of kind of the concept of an old episode of, I think it was Rocket Power, where there was some, like, daring, huge course or something that someone was going to go down. But all along of, like, for some reason this episode evoked in me, like, the idea of being a kid and just going on adventures of things that are seemingly, like, way larger than you and your friends, but you kind of, like, make it up as you go. And in this case, it was like Dee Dee trying to go conquer this. I'm glad you remember the kid's name was Duncan that they found that was been living in this, like, decrepit, broken down slide. Yeah, that one was fun. The broccoli one, though, it is kind of funny you bring up mixed messages because I totally forgot what the resolution was. Maybe just that it was okay to eat broccoli. Like, it doesn't label
Right,
you.
There was, like, these people that would walk around that they thought they were limbos, but they were just, like, a free hug group. They were basically people that went around and, like, assaulted you by trying to give you a hug. Like, well, dude, get away from me, creepy old man. I don't want you touching me.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was, there were some funny, like, moments. The show has this weird thing where it's like trying to do the Adventure Time regular show thing a little bit, where, like, there's just these weird faces or weird, like, expressions or weird characters that just kind of, like, pop in. And the broccoli one especially had a lot of adults doing very not adult things. Like, there was this one businessman who would just pop in all of a sudden and say, like, oh, I smell broccoli. I'm going to cancel all of my lunches. I'm going to eat this broccoli because I'm an adult. Like,
Yeah, that was kind of funny. But
there were some great funny moments like that, but you're right. It seemed actually like it focused way more on this vegetable than it did the character development. But yeah, it was building around the idea of, like, you're in a purgatory if you're a kid that likes broccoli because only adults like broccoli and kids definitely don't, but maybe you're crossing over kind of.
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think they were also getting, I love the little details of, like, they were at a food truck that served fried rice. It was double fried. And they were having, like, a deliciousness contest almost, where they were talking about the items in there that were good. And some of the things they were like, oh, chunk carrots. And I'm like, wait, that's not good either. I just want
Right.
the rice.
There was like funny parts of that episode, but as like I said, it was forgettable, and the message was confusing. I didn't understand the point of that episode.
Yeah.
When you say shrimp, I say pea.
Shrimp.
Pea!
Carrot.
Corn!
Broccoli.
Ugh. Yeah, peck it, pigeons. Destroy the fool's tree. Little teeny nasty boys. Phillip! Ha! Green alert! It fell into your mouth. This is not a test. This is broccoli!
Not so fast, Dee Dee. I suspect. Yes, I know. I like it.
Gasp! Everyone knows the only people who like broccoli are grown-ups.
Ha! Lydia, cancel lunch. I found lunch.
I think they were good. I think especially Tube of Pain, though, if we're talking about a very first episode. One that, by the way, they don't like, this is not a show that jumps in and says, like, this is Dee Dee, here's what she does, blah, blah, blah. You kind of just get thrown into it, and it kind of works out because I think Tube of Pain is amazing, like, introduction to these characters.
Yeah.
Not even knowing what to expect. I didn't know that that Phillip was such a safety nut. And then you get this treacherous water slide, so it kind of, like, puts him into action. He has to show his characteristics right off the bat.
And he has to vent stuff to protect her, and there's so much of like, yeah, this is why we're a great team. You're the daredevil, and I'm, more cautious, and I'm looking out for you. And so we should have fun adventures, but they'll be safe.
Yeah. So that was definitely a good one to start off with. I watched a couple episodes. This was episode 6. It was called, the first episode of this first part was called Pete Peril. And Pete Peril, the story is about to do, also in this park, they did another reveal, much like the Tube of Pain, where they show this like beautiful, like sculpted garden maze that's also in this park. So I think this park can just morph into anything. Like it has tons of stuff, but it's not directly present.
It's like the regular show park. There's a lot of stuff in that.
Just stuff, yeah. But the whole thing was that the mayor was throwing this like, first of all, this whole event was sponsored by this like body armor company, like armor that you could wear that would protect you. And Pete Peril, this other daredevil, not related to the Dangers, was going to do a jump over this big hedge maze kind of thing. But then Dee Dee got all upset because she realized that if Pete Peril makes this jump, that's the last record that her family has. Like her dad had the record for doing this jump. And Pete Peril and her dad used to be best buddies, and now her dad's like totally injured and they don't talk anymore. So Dee Dee spends the episode trying to sabotage the jump. And it's just great that like she continuously tries to get like the mayor is a there's all these like endangered animals in the parks, and the mayor loves protecting endangered animals. So Dee Dee tries to like let them escape so they'll be in the path of the jump. She changes the degree of the ramp. There's like a small side story where Phillip's not in this one so much, but they have t-shirt cannons that if they can't stop the jump, they're going to shoot these cannons into the crowd that just say, "Remember Roy Danger," or whatever her dad's name was.
Okay.
But Phillips, he put like pillows, he like silenced his t-shirt cannon so that they won't shoot fast. They'll just drift into the crowd. And he shoots them and they land next to him. And then just people are constantly following Phillip throughout the episode, like diving on each other, because that's what people do when there's t-shirt cannons. They go crazy and they start, I think at some point he calls them leeches and like can't get away from them. So then it kind of resolves itself where I guess it's the stuntman code that if somebody gets hurt in like doing a stunt and you were buddies or something, you're not supposed to talk to each other because it's bad luck or something. But eventually Pete gets hurt because Dee Dee sabotaged it. So.
Oh, okay.
But the next episode was really fun. It was another like kind of adult episode. The episode is called Phillip Con, and it is literally a conference where every year anyone named Phillip is invited. What? And so Phillip, the egg, is being given the honor of Phillip of the Year from the Phillip Con creator, Phillip Phillips.
Wow. Okay.
And so Dee Dee legally changes her name to Phillip so she can go to the conference to watch her best friend accept this award. But throughout the conference, apparently Phillips are like a cult almost. It's like not like a bad cult, but just like they're all very much like Philip the Egg, but they're all these different types of humans, where one might be a comic book nerd, but he really likes things that are orderly. One guy is like, here are maps of where all the vendors are, and here are a bunch of maps that point to these maps where the vendors are. Like, I don't know, they're just very organized, tidy nerds, basically.
So Dee Dee was like the outcast Philip.
Yeah, so all these people who are like, oh, we love anything Philip, anything to do with Philip, start asking like, wait a second, how long have you been a Philip? Like, things like that, to where she eventually can't make it to Philip's speech when he's accepting the award. The final speech is actually some of the best stuff in the episode, because Philip comes out and does the Apple Steve Jobs thing where you got to give like an update on your company.
Okay.
But he's like, well, Phillips, thanks to a few pregnant people, we have now moved up 2 spots to number 383 on the naming chart. And everyone goes crazy. Like, but there was a very impassioned speech about friendship and what Dee Dee went through to try to like be there for her friend, to just see him get this award. And Philip breaks down. He's like, you know what? You like, we all say we're inclusive, but yeah, you didn't include my friend who's just trying to be here for me. You know what? Sometimes I feel like a Phil. And everyone like is crazy about it. And then finally everyone opens up and realizes like, maybe being a Philip's not the greatest. Like, I want to be a Gregory or something. It was so strange, but it was just a fun little episode. So
That sounds pretty good. Huh.
yeah. That's the idea of Philip Con. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Some fun, hopefully you guys get an idea of some of the fun stories in this. Dude, the art and animation is great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the character design, they move around. They do a lot of like the big faces in front of the screen. That's just a thing cartoons do now.
Yeah. I think the character design of Philip being an egg, they do so many fun things with his face because he's got so much surface area for it to like move around and be in a circle or something. There was a moment, I think I sent you this image earlier this morning or something, where like he goes to whisper to Dee Dee and he puts his hands over his face, but his face shrinks down to be in the tiny hole in his hands to whisper to her or something.
Oh,
It was just,
funny.
it was
Okay.
really funny. They use a lot of bright colors in this show. They use this like really bright red, blue, and yellow. So the primary colors, and white are like the dominant colors. I guess the blue is more like a teal.
Yeah.
But those are the 3 that I feel like I see a lot. Even Philip's mouth being a white egg, he actually has a yellow interior, which would make sense for the yolk, but it also fits the color scheme of the characters. It's got we did mention Adventure Time and regular show today. It does have that same sort of, we've said noodly arm tons of times, that's part of it, but
Right.
very extreme, snappy poses to the characters, very wiggly the way they move. Actually, if you guys want a great example, Tube of Pain, the water slide one is great. There's moments where Dee Dee's going through loops and jumping through different pipes and stuff that's like really spongy and cool. I think that was one of my favorites. Yeah, man, the voice acting's great. The characters are great. Like, I'm sitting here saying like, I'm definitely going to watch all of this, but I'm kind of sad there's only one season.
Yeah, I'll probably dive into it. I'll make sure I install the Amazon app on my phone and probably watch it at the gym or something like that.
Yeah, dude, it's so great. We recently got a indoor bike, so I could bike in the winter in here. And usually we watch like training videos or something like that. But the other night I was watching Danger and Eggs, and my wife at the end of my workout was like, "What new instructor were you watching that was so funny?" And I was like, "Oh no, I was watching cartoons." Like, it was just really making me laugh. I think I was laughing at the broccoli episode, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, man, no, this is a great find. I'm glad we were like, hey, let's try to find something new that maybe we didn't hear of, and Amazon Prime definitely delivered. So hopefully this show got a good response, and I really hope there's more of it.
For sure.
Yeah, well, cool. I think that's going to wrap it up for our discussion all about Danger and Eggs. Again, we mentioned, guys, if you have Amazon Prime Video, you can go check that out over there. And I think Brad mentioned that the first episode is free. So that one you don't need a subscription for. So that's good. But let's get out of here. Brad, where can people find out more about you when you're not recording Toon Talk Weekly?
So you can follow me on Twitter. It's @brad, and my blog is digitalhitchhiker.com.
Great, guys, go check them out over there. You can follow me on Twitter @Jacob Williams. If you want more Toon Talk, we're all over social media. We're on Twitter @Toon Talk Weekly, Facebook.com/Toon Talk Weekly. We're over on Google Plus as Toon Talk Weekly as well. Our email, toontalkweekly@gmail.com. It's the place to send any messages. Let us know if there's any show you want us to cover, anything else you know about Danger and Eggs, because I didn't find a ton of background, but we're kind of digging the show now. And finally, toontalkweekly.com, the main hub for the show. You can find any and all episodes of the podcast over there. Should be up for you. But yeah, no, fun new show. I'm actually, I don't know, I'm kind of giddy to get back into more of it. So, but that's going to do it for this week's episode of Toon Talk Weekly. We'll be back next week with another cartoon.
Take care.
To learn more about the show, visit toontalkweekly.com or follow us on Twitter @ToonTalkWeekly.